Welcome. Today I am going to be sharing my homeschool curriculum recommendations for middle school. I am working on a series. I've already done early elementary, upper elementary, going to do middle school today, and then I will be doing high school. So if this interests you, stay tuned. Welcome to Learning with Boys. My name is Rachel. I am a homeschool mom of 4 boys. I have graduated 2. This school year, I have a middle schooler and a high schooler. We are on our 16th year of homeschooling, and today I want to share some middle school recommendations. I think most of them are curriculums we have used. We are more of an eclectic type homeschool family. We lean a little bit towards Charlotte Mason, and we do look for a Christian worldview in our curriculum. And today I'm going to be sharing language arts, math, Bible, history, and science with you, some recommendations there. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with language arts. I'm going to start with grammar, and I'm going to mention 2, and remember these are for middle school. So the first one I want to recommend is actually a curriculum we used in high school. It is analytical grammar, but it is more meant for middle school, early high school. Analytical grammar is a little bit of a challenging curriculum, but I think if you spread it over 3 years, they will definitely have a solid foundation. It does use diagramming, so that is one reason I wanted to recommend this, because I know some people that is important to them in teaching their kids about grammar. So it is definitely a middle school curriculum. My second recommendation for grammar is Fix It from IEW. Now, this is what my 6th grader started out with this school year. This is his first year. My high schooler has used it a couple of times, and it is going very well for him. Now, he is on book 3. I think I said in my upper elementary that he was on book 2, but I'm realizing it is level 3. Now, they do have an assessment where you can decide on where your child should come in at. If they have not done any grammar, it is fine to start with book 1 and move at their own pace. This is what I really like about Fix It, is that it's not grade level. It just wants to make sure that you are learning everything about grammar. So really, even with this, it is starting to get a little bit challenging. So I can slow it down because we are not in a hurry with this. So that is one thing I like about it. There is no diagramming, but it covers all aspects of your grammar, including punctuation. So I do highly recommend this, especially coming into the middle school years. Okay, for spelling, majority of the time, we really finish up spelling in the upper elementary by 6th grade. But my 6th grader this school year is using the Phonetic Zoo from IEW. I do have a video on this, and he is on B. They have A, B, and C. So I haven't decided if we're going to continue on with that, but I think it would be, if you needed a good overall and something just to make sure they're where they need to be or are struggling with spelling. I love how they do the rules and how it is set up, because it's very independent. They could just put their headphones on and listen. They have CDs. They also can download it from online to follow the cards. And if you get the cards, you really only need one set, because they have all A, B, and C on the cards. You just need the different CDs, like I have A and B here. So this has been good, and definitely recommend upper elementary and middle school for spelling. Okay, I am talking about IEW a little bit because I do also want to mention that is what my recommendation is for writing. And as I mentioned in my upper elementary video, sometimes writing for us is not really even introduced until 6th, maybe even 7th grade strongly. And IEW is what has worked for all my boys. They're different learning styles. I do have a video that I did somewhat recently of how we do it, because I feel like sometimes it can seem a little stressful. So I just wanted to give you some suggestions or ideas of how we do it that I think you can pace yourself. Every child is going to be different, and when you're using a curriculum, you do need to find the flexibility in it. So for the writing program, if you have not done it, I do suggest watching the teacher structure style. And I know that's a little bit of an investment. I have the old DVD versions, and I have referred back to it several times over the years because I have several students and I just wanted to review something for myself before I continued to teach or talk to them about it. Now, if they start out with the student structure style, which is a DVD program, or you can do it online now, which is what my high schooler is doing. And for middle school, I would suggest starting at level B. It's not so much the information, I think that increases, but it's the level of different writings that they use that gets harder. So if you do not want to invest in the teacher structure style, I would start definitely with the DVDs or video series for your child and watch along just to get an idea of how the flow is. My boys have enjoyed watching Andrew Pudewa and the DVDs over the years. Now, they also have the themed books for the writing, and that is what my son is using this school year. He's using the medieval history-based writing lessons. I also want to recommend for middle school the modern world history-based writing lessons. This is definitely more a 7th and 8th grade book. But the thing about these is they are also going to have vocabulary in them, and they will have suggestions for books that you can read, like literature books that you can read along with the type of writing that you're doing, especially these history ones. So I do want to let you know that. So those are my recommendations for language arts. For math, I am going to recommend Matthew C, but we have dabbled in a couple of different things. And I do want to mention one other one before I talk about Matthew C, and that is Saxon Math. Now, one of my boys used it in the middle school years because he finished up through algebra with Matthew C, and I was not ready for him to step in to algebra yet. I just did not feel like he was ready. So I looked into Saxon, and that is what he did that year, and he really did okay with it. He did not mind it. It definitely is a lot more work, a lot more problems per lesson, and yes, we are one of the people that either did the odd or the even problems. He also used DVDs. He had a teacher. We used the DVDs from Art Read, and those worked really well for my boys. I do know there are several other people that teach and have videos available for your student when they're using Saxon Math. That is one of my recommendations, and that is more of a spiral math where you're learning little by little and adding it all together. But Matthew C is what I highly recommend because that has worked well for all my boys, and that is a mastery program. So you're going to learn your multiplication, and then you're going to learn your division all the way to long division, and then decimals and fractions, and then pre-algebra. My son is doing Zeta this school year, but he started halfway through the year. And again, this is one of those programs that there's not really a grade on it, so that is nice. But actually, after this, I'm in no hurry because after this is pre-algebra, which most students do that in 8th grade. And that's how it will flow with Matthew C. If you start from the beginning with primer in kindergarten, you will end up with pre-algebra in 7th grade and algebra in 8th. And I had one boy that did that. But if you need to slow it down, which we usually end up having to do, it all works out in the end. So that is one of the reasons we like this program. Okay, those are my 2 recommendations for math. For Bible, that has looked different for our middle school grades over the years. Sometimes we might just be reading through the Bible or certain books of the Bible. We have done stories through the Bible. This is a particular curriculum that we have used, and I had a note on here possibly to use it for my uprising, who will be in 7th grade next school year. And it is actually from BJU Press. It is their Bible Truth books. Now, you can do as much in depth as you want to, but when I have done this, it pretty much has, it's New Testament and Old Testament. And I know once they go in high school, they'll do like church history and some other different things. But for 7th and 8th, that's what I like about it. So they will have some scripture to focus on, to read, to memorize, some words to understand, and then they'll have their lesson, and then they'll have an application. So that is what I really like about it, and I'm leaning towards this for my middle schooler starting next school year. All right, I do want to mention just a couple of type devotional books that have been really good for my boys, and I have mentioned them in so many videos, but they are books by Bob Schultz. This is one my 6th grader is using this school year, Boyhood and Beyond. Here is another one, Created for Work, Practical Insights for Young Men by Bob Schultz. And these are great. These are more like an addition, like you definitely want to be either using a Bible or reading your Bible and just using these. Maybe even once or twice a week, they would be great to have along. I do want to mention also this is really not Bible, this is a life skill book, but would be perfect for middle school. I do want to mention that I'm talking about boys here, and if you want to suggest what you use for girls for like a devotional or a life skill curriculum book, please feel free to let us know below. I have boys, so I cannot feel like I can confidently tell you a recommendation for girls because I haven't read any of them. Now, this life skill book is for young men and it's by Amy Marion, and she has a website. She actually has written some of her own curriculum that you can purchase off of Amazon. I think she does a YouTube channel also. But this was a great book that I'm probably going to reintroduce to my uprising 7th grader. And I had done it with my 3 older ones when my oldest was more of a younger teen. So middle school, maybe a very young high school. And on the back, she does say, which I didn't use it for this, but she does say it's broken up into 18 weeks. We just read it and discussed and talked about it, and can be counted as a half a semester. I don't know if she means it can be counted as a credit. I'm not sure. It can covers a variety of skills from personal grooming, how to get a job, finances, cooking, laundry, and outdoor survival skills. Now, most of the time when I started this, my boys, they have some idea of a lot of this already, but there were certain things that she mentions that I had just not thought about. So I suggest going through something like this with your boys. I am going to move on into science and history. I do want to talk about the Science Shepherd, and that is the science program that my son is using this school year. It is our first year using it, and I highly recommend it. Definitely has a Christian worldview, which I appreciate so much, answers a lot of questions beyond just the study that you're doing from a biblical point of view. And this school year, he is doing earth science. It is an online, so he sits down here at the computer and watches it. I'm usually down here listening, working on something else. It is about 4 to 6 minutes. Sometimes it could be up to 8 minutes. And then he has a book that he answers questions from. They do have activities. We really haven't followed through with those, but I do want to let you know that. So it's really been great. This school year was something we both he has enjoyed it and learned a lot, but on my point of view, it's more of an independent thing that he can work on. So it's been really helpful. They also have, for middle school, I know they have astronomy, physical science, and earth science. So I want to mention that if you're looking, and you can get online. This is how I found out about them. I looked at them, I watched some of their videos, and I could tell that they had a good biblical worldview. So I was very excited about that. All right, another curriculum I do want to mention for science is master books for middle school. And one reason I like them is because I like their book choices. We actually had learned about books from John Hudson Tinner early on before we really looked at master book science itself. We had this one and we had the Planet Earth, but then I realized master books has a teacher-student guide that has questions and answers and just gives you a schedule to follow along with it, which I think is great for science for middle school. And these books were so good that my boys learned so much from these books, and they enjoyed them. They liked doing them. So definitely nice to have the schedule and the questions and answer flow for those. Now, another set that we have used is the applied science. And I do have a video on this one, and I think I mentioned the one I just talked about. I do like an open review of it. And this is for 7th through 9th. And like I said, it just gives you a schedule to follow. They're reading through the books. There's questions to answer. and they learn so much through this. So I want to mention that one, and I'm going to mention one more because these are books, like I said, that we had already had from Master Books, and then I'm realizing that they have the schedule and answer question flow for the students. And these are books that I would love for my middle schooler to read or go through. And those are the Wonders of Creation books. And they have a science for middle school for that. So like ecology, fossils, geology, weather. Now I'm not sure if all these are on. I think they have a couple different ones, but I really do like that. There is one more science that I am going to recommend, but we have not used it. It is something that is more hands-on, so that's why I want to recommend it. And it is Exploration Education Program. I have looked at it several times. It's actually part of the box curriculum we use for history, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but you can buy it separately. It's just one of their recommendations for science. And it is a physical science. They have a couple different levels, so you can do like a lower or upper level. And I think if you do the upper level, you can do it like an 8th and maybe even count it for high school credit. So I do want to mention that. But from what I understand, what I've seen, I've looked into it several times over the years, but you watch some videos and then you actually physically are making like either some type of car or some type of object that will fly or things like that. So more of whatever you would be involved in physical science. So it's definitely hands-on. But I will link them below. All right, for history, I am going to talk about the curriculum we are using, which is a box curriculum from Heart of Dakota, but I do want to mention another history that we have used, are using, and it could be a standalone, maybe with some books that you would want your middle schooler to read, but that is the Mystery of History. I highly recommend these books. We have used these. We actually have used the first one years ago before it was hardcover. I think they have a hardcover book now. When my boys were younger, really enjoyed that. And I think for being independent, it would be perfect to read for middle school. I have not used the second book. Now, I know it sort of runs from creation to Christ in the first book. I think it's more of the medieval times during the second book. And this is Renaissance, Reformation, Growth of Nations. And then this is Wars of Independence to Modern Times. Now, like I said, this is a Christian worldview curriculum. I really love her way of writing. I feel like she gives a good aspect of both sides. So I really do appreciate that. And I do want to mention something particularly about this book because actually my 6th grader, he is using this the second half of his 6th grade year. Some of the chapters, especially towards the beginning, talking about that early Renaissance art era, there are things in there that I prefer him not to be reading. We actually read a lot of the beginning of this book together, and some of that I skipped through. Now we're sort of at the time where I'm fine for him to read it. I'll look at the chapter and I'll say, yes, would you go ahead and read this chapter? And I can tell that it's fine. Now, let me tell you, this is like my 4th time through this book. So I am familiar with it and I know what I'm looking for. So that has been helpful, but I do want to sort of give you a heads up about that. Now, also, they do have on CDs or audio. I don't know if you can get the CDs. I know you can download the audiobook. So you have those options if you have a child that you want to be independent about, but they don't love reading. I do love her writing. It is easy to read, but every kid is different. I think the information is completely understandable for a middle school age child. Now, there are 4 books in the series, but I do feel like if you wanted to start them for history, you could definitely do it 6th, 7th, and 8th. And if you have a motivated student, you could probably do all 4 books in 7th and 8th grade. Let me know if any of you use this and how it has worked for you. I do want to mention a little bit about book 4 because I know it's somewhat newer. We are excited to use it this school year, but my high schooler is using it. So I do feel like some of the content is definitely more upper middle school, high school. especially now. We are sort of doing this together, which I'm so thankful, because I have really been enjoying this book and learning so much. And right now we are talking about the era of World War II. So there is a lot of deep discussion and a lot of sometimes gruesome talk. So I do want to forewarn you about that. I feel like she does it in a fine way, but things have to be said sometimes. So that's why I'm just letting you know. Some kids are very, very sensitive, but definitely my 6th grader has listened to a lot of this. But that is an era that he probably knows more than I do already. So that's why I feel okay about reading that to him. But I wanted to share that recommendation to you before I talk about Heart of Dakota, because I definitely recommend Heart of Dakota. That is a curriculum we are using this school year for both my boys. We've been using it for several years on and off. It is a boxed curriculum. So you will get a student teacher guide. It is meant for more independence as they hit the middle school years. When I say it's a boxed curriculum, it's because you literally can open it up. It has history, Bible, science, math, language arts, and more. And because it is a Charlotte Mason style curriculum, the more is like poetry and art. Here we have an inventor study, and that would be more for the science, but then you also have state study, president study, Shakespeare study, there's a music study. So have notebooks to go along with all those studies. Plus they have a notebook that just goes along with your history, where you are doing written narration, timelines, and things like that. So that's what gives it the Charlotte Mason feel. I'm going to mention that they have geography. We really enjoy their geography for these middle school years. They really just go along with the era of history. You're mapping your way through history. I think even as I am reading, sometimes my son will say, oh, I'm writing that place right now that we're talking about, or that I'm reading out loud to him. So I wanted to mention that to you. Now that would be my recommendation. The thing about using this particular type of box curriculum is you can use it just for the history, which let me also mention, because it is a Charlotte Mason style curriculum, that they do have the spines, which right now we're using Mystery of History for my 6th grader as one of the spines. He's using that the second half of the semester, but all the living books that they have that go with it, that makes the history just come alive, and you feel like you're in that era, you're with those people, you're understanding what they're going through. So we really do love the living book aspect of it. We have not used the next guide, which would be for 7th grade, but somebody has let me borrow it, and I'm looking through it and realizing for their story time, they have a lot of analytical questions. So that is starting to be introduced. So I'm excited about that. So those are my recommendations for middle school. Now it's your turn. I would love to hear what your favorites are, what you might want to recommend for middle school. Share down below. Also, if you are new here, I would love for you to subscribe and join us. And if this video is helpful in any way, please give it a thumbs up. That would encourage me. I do appreciate you all watching. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you again soon.